What if Pokemon had 3 types at once? Would it create more problems, or could it create a Pokemon even better with its new type, giving it more resistances, immunities, and stab damage? Well, in Elite Redux, the ROM hack that gives every Pokemon 4 abilities at once, there are actually a ton of Pokemon with 3 types at the same time. This is only because they have an ability that adds a new type to them, so in Randomizer, this will change. There are currently 9 abilities that add new typings, so let's look at all the combinations and how well it works for the Pokemon with them. The ability Phantom will add the Ghost typing to any Pokemon that has it. One of the most fitting examples of this is for all the Rotom forms. Rotom Heat is Fire Electric Ghost type. With 9 resistances and 2 immunities, it's a pretty solid defensive Pokemon. Now normally it would have a 4 times weakness to ground, but it has Levitate like all the other Rotom forms, so it's just another immunity. Rotom Heat is one of the best forms to run. Rotom Wash is a Water Electric Ghost type, and while it doesn't have as many resistances, having only 7, it has only 3 super effective weaknesses to worry about. With how bulky it is and all the great coverage moves it gets, like Flamethrower and Blizzard, Rotom Wash is really scary to deal with. Not the case with Rotom Fan form, which is Flying Electric Ghost. Way less resistances and 4 super effective types. Since it's already flying, it doesn't have Levitate and has actual abilities that make it either immune to electric or flying, so it will always have 4 immunities, making it a great pivot option. The last 2 are pretty bad, and the 3rd ghost typing doesn't change much for them. Rotom Mow with Electric, Grass, and Ghost really only swaps out Bug and Poison for Dark and Ghost as moves that are super effective against it, which honestly hurts it more than helps it. And Rotom Frost with Electric, Ice, and Ghost, it only gains 2 more weaknesses. None of these have it as bad as Mega Crobat though. The Poison Flying Ghost type doesn't benefit at all with its new Ghost typing. Its resistances only get more resisted while it gains 2 more weaknesses. Let's be real, Mega Crobat with its speed and power cares more about the new stab it gains. Shadow Fangs is now even better alongside Priority Astonish. Fanfernal, the brand new evolution of Gourgeist, is a Fire Grass Ghost type. No longer having to worry about poison, but again must watch out for Ghost and Dark. Fanfernal has 142 in defense, so even with an additional weakness, it's still difficult to take out. With all the ghost moves it has, having stab damage is really nice. The new Fuzz Redux Toxtricity and its Mega Evolution are Electric, Dark, and Ghost. This added ghost typing is really good for it overall, dropping 2 weaknesses like Fighting, which it becomes immune to, and Bug. The Mega form has an ability that turns all normal sound moves into Ghost, so it also benefits greatly on offense. Adding Ghost isn't really a massive game changer as you can see, but what about adding a defensive typing like Steel? With all of its resistances, it can be a great addition to the right Pokemon. Well, the ability Metallic does just that. One of the best examples is with Delmise and its new evolution Dreadnought. Both are now Grass, Ghost, and Steel, going from 4 resistances to 9 and giving it an immunity to poison. This type combination also reduces the super effective moves from 5 to 3. If you're worried about the 4 times weakness to fire, they both have an ability that reduces that to half. All the water moves it gets, it might as well be 4 types. There are 2 Mega Evolutions that add Steel. Mega Crocodile becomes a Dark, Ground, and Steel type, going from 4 resistances and 2 immunities to 7 resistances and 3 immunities. It loses weaknesses to Fairy, Bug, and Grass, but does gain a new fire weakness. Fighting types are something it definitely needs to watch out for though, since it's really weak to it. A very similar case to Mega Redux Toxtricity. Yes, there are 2 Mega forms for Redux Toxtricity. This form is Dark Electric Steel type, and the addition of Steel ends up being a huge improvement for it, doubling the resistances from 5 to 10 and doubling its immunities from 1 to 2. On the other hand, it only reduces super effective moves by 1, but upgrades 2 of them to 4 times super effective. It's a Pokemon with excellent speed and power, so as long as it doesn't see a Blaziken in a dark alley, it can be a really good Pokemon with this 3rd type. Steel is by far the best defensive type you can add to any Pokemon, but what about typings that really are built for offense? Well, the ability Turbo Blaze is no longer just a form of Mold Breaker, but actually adds Fire type to a Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon that have this are already Fire type, so it does nothing, but 3 Pokemon gain Fire from it. Of course, the Pokemon where this ability comes from, Kyurem White, gets this ability, becoming a Dragon, Ice, Fire type. Defensively, it only becomes worse, gaining a new 4 times weakness to Rock while only cutting fire attacks to a quarter. But offensively, it's so much better. Its Ice and Dragon stab moves hit a lot of types, at least neutrally, but struggled against many steel type Pokemon. Now with fire, the only Pokemon that give it trouble are water fairy types like Primarina. Good thing Freeze Dry exists. Koraidon is a Pokemon that benefits on both sides from its new fire typing, becoming a dragon fighting fire type. While it actually gains a new ground weakness, Fairy not doing 4 times super effective damage is a win. Grass, Bug, and Fire moves all drop to 1/4 the damage, while it loses its resistance to water. Offensively, it couldn't hit a lot of Fairy type Pokemon, but now only Water Fairy types resisted stab damage. With it setting up the Sun on entry, it should be able to benefit from the extra damage. Iron Carapace is a perfect example of how 3 types can absolutely destroy a Pokemon defensively. The Paradox form of Centiskorch is now an Electric, Steel, and Fire type, going from 11 total resistances and immunities to 10, and gains an 8 times weakness to ground. If this thing even sees a picture of the beach on Instagram, it's going to lose half of its health. It does quarter the damage of a lot of moves, but it's still really bad. Electric Steel isn't that amazing offensively and really struggles to hit electric types. The addition of Fire helps, but there are still a ton of Pokemon it can't hit. Kyurem Black wasn't left out, as Terravolt has the same thing except it adds the electric type, making it an Ice Dragon electric type. This new typing only lets it resist flying moves and keeps the same amount of weaknesses. It is incredible though at adding to its coverage, leaving only Steel electric types as the only Pokemon that resisted stab. Giving stab to Kyurem Black's 100% accurate Bolt Strike is very powerful. Ice is another type that's very bad defensively, so its addition to a Pokemon is purely for offensive reasons. Ice Age is the ability that gives a Pokemon the Ice type. Currently, the only Pokemon with it is Clossifier, the branch evolution of Clauncher. Clossifier is an electric, fire, and ice type. Defensively, it's about the same, only gaining a 4 times weakness to rock. It would still keep its 4 times weakness to ground, but luckily it has Levitate to avoid that. Offensively though, Ice is an amazing addition for it. Before, ground and dragon types would give it a lot of trouble, but now it hits nearly all the type combinations at least neutrally. Fire Electric is the only type that is safe from it. Now we all thought Dragalage, and yes, that is the right way to say it, was a water type at one point. I mean, I still forget sometimes. With the ability Aquatic, it now is a Dragon Poison water type. Defensively, this doesn't change much, switching around a few things but has the same amount of resistances and super effective moves. All the addition of water does is allow it to hit steel types more effectively, as they resisted both stabs before. Honestly, Dragalage is only getting this ability because it fits. Kind of like Dodrio with its new ability Grounded, giving it the ground type. A normal flying ground type is really nice as it has 3 immunities, while everything else is pretty much neutral. Ice and water are a big problem though. Normal flying is terrible offensively, so the addition of ground stab ends up being a huge improvement so it can actually hit steel and rock types. That isn't even the only 3 type Dodrio. Redux Dodrio has the ability Half Drake, which adds the dragon type to a Pokemon, making it a dark poison dragon type. Dragon is a solid type to add as it's both good offensively and defensively, at least on the right Pokemon. In this case, it's a mixed bag. While it gains a bunch of new resistances, it also gains 3 new weaknesses, so you either can't hit it very hard or it's probably going to die. The addition of Dragon doesn't really let it hit more Pokemon except a few ground types. A few other Pokemon get Half Drake though, like Aerodactyl, which becomes a rock flying dragon type. It only gives it a grass resistance and makes its ice weakness that much worse, but now Dragon can help it hit some rock and ground types. But for the most part, this edition of Dragon type is kinda just there for lore reasons. Probably why the Mega ends up dropping it. Of course, who could forget about the godlike Pokemon Eternaburm with its Bug Poison Dragon typing, gaining 1 new resistance and 1 new weakness. Not that it matters because it can't be touched, but the addition of Dragon really helps out its coverage, as Poison and Bug is really bad when it comes to dealing super effective damage. Dragon lets it cut the amount of Pokemon that resist those moves in half. Salazzle and its new male counterpart Salazarus are both Poison Fire Dragon types. The additional Dragon typing only serves to reduce damage from grass to basically nothing. They're still amazing at taking out the goated Mega Meganium. Dragon offensively is extremely good for them, as nearly all the Pokemon that resist its stab and fire poison moves are at least being hit for neutral damage with Dragon. There's actually another ability that adds Dragon, being Dragonfly, and I'm sure you can imagine who gets it. If you said Yanmega, you'd be wrong. Why would you think that? No, the other 2 Pokemon that get it are both Mega Flygons. The difference between Dragonfly and Half Drake is the addition of a ground immunity. The OG Mega Flygon becomes a ground bug dragon type. All Dragon does for it is get rid of common weaknesses like fire and water, but gives it a 4 times weakness to ice, which is bad. Bug and ground is not the greatest when it comes to coverage, so the addition of Dragon, along with all the Dragon moves it gets, lets it threaten more teams. The Redux Mega Flygon is Ice, Bug, and Dragon. Ice Bug is famously one of the worst type combinations ever, so adding Dragon can only improve it. I mean, now it resists water and electric, but gains a Dragon and Fairy weakness. A 4 times weakness to rock and fire is still unbelievably bad, but at least the base form gets Mountaineer to block rock moves. Adding Dragon doesn't solve the issue of it hitting Steel type Pokemon though. Giving an Ice Bug type Dragon is fine, but nothing game breaking comes from it. For now, the amount of Pokemon and the amount of types of 3 typed Pokemon is limited. There are still tons of combinations available, and hopefully more come in the future. Fairy Tail, which will add Fairy, and Hover, which will add Psychic, are planned. What type combinations would you want to see? Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed. Shout out to all our members, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.